Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today we are going to start day 2 of factoring, and this time we are going to do the strategy of borrow and payback. So, as we can see, the standard asks us, we've already done one variable by inspection, finding square roots, we've done that as well. We have yet to do the finding the quadratic formula, that'll be next week, but we are focusing on factoring. And it says as appropriate to the initial form of the equation. So we're going to look at it today with the borrow and payback. This is when the leading coefficient is not equal to 1. So we use this strategy when the coefficient is not equal to 1. Let's review some of our vocabulary that's needed for this. So the first thing is standard form. And remember, standard form means that the exponents are in descending order, which means you do the opposite operations in order to move it to the point where it's ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So you have to move everything to the left until you get a 0 on the right hand side. And remember, you always do that by doing the opposite operations. The leading coefficient, that is going to be in standard form the number in front. So you have to put it in standard form first. You have to do opposite operations to move everything to the left, and then it is going to be the number in front. Now, what are solutions? So solutions are where x is equal to, and this is also going to tell us where our line crosses the x-axis. So this is an easy way to kind of help us with graphing, helps us with understanding that this represents the ground. Or sea level when we're talking about real world problems. Okay, so let's try some of the prior knowledge ones. Remember, we've already factored some quadratics, so let's kind of get our brain kind of moving. Remember, we have to move everything to the left first by doing the opposite operation. We need to make sure that it's in descending order, so the x squared comes first, then the negative x, then the minus 6 is equal to, now we have 0 on the other side. Now we're going to start by finding our factors of c. So what multiply together to get 6? Well, 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Now, because this c is negative, if we recall from our practice, you can also get the resource out, get your notes page out, that because the c is negative, then one of them has to be positive and the other one has to be negative. Because the b, which is the second term, the middle term, is also negative, that means the larger number is going to be negative. So we have these two are going to be negative, these two are going to be positive. And we're always just going to add straight across. So this is going to be -5, this is going to be -1. So which one of those set of factors add up to give us our b? Well, our magic set is going to be this one. So we have x plus 2 and x minus 3 is going to be equal to 0. So then to find the solutions, we are going to break them up and find the solutions separately. So we have x plus 2 equals 0, and we have x minus 3 is equal to 0. And we're going to solve these by doing the opposite operation. So what's the opposite of plus 2? That is a minus 2. So we're going to have x equals negative 2. And what is the opposite of minus 3? It is plus 3, so x equals positive 3. So our solutions to this equation are going to be x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to 3. Let's do it a little bit faster. Okay, so you move this to the left by doing the opposite operation. You put it in standard form. You find all of your factors for 18. So I know 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. I keep going until I find my next number. Does 4 go into 18 evenly? No. Neither does 5. Oh wait, here is my 6. I know that I've found all of my factors. Because my C is negative, because my constant is negative, but my B, my middle term, is positive, the larger numbers are all going to be positive. And the smaller numbers are going to be negative. I add them straight across. That is equal to 17. It is equal to 7. It is equal to 3. And so the pairing that is magic for us is this one. That becomes x minus 3 and x plus 6. Now this is the factored form. In order to find the solutions, we break them up and we find out what the opposite operation is. So we have x minus 3 is equal to 0. The opposite of minus 3 is plus 3, so the answer is positive 3. The opposite of plus 6 is negative 6, so the answer is negative 6. So there are two solutions. This line crosses the x-axis at positive 3 and at negative 6. And the last one, again, you move your variable term to the left by doing the opposite operation. You factor your last number. So 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. Because the 9 is positive, because our 9 is positive, but our B is negative, they are both going to be negative. We add them together. This is a negative 10. This is a negative 6. So we have x minus 3 and x minus 3. We break them up and we find our solutions. Oh wait, it's the same thing, this would. Yes, it is. So guess what? We only have one solution to this one, and it crosses at 3. So this is what we did previously. Today is borrow and payback. And the reason why we needed to start with the previous steps is because we're going to be using a lot of those. So the only thing there are two things. We're going to borrow and then we're going to pay back a number. So as a reminder, we have our equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so step number 1 is to put it in standard form. That is always going to be step number 1. Then you're going to multiply A times C. And then find the factors for the product, or for the answer. Then you are going to determine which is your magic pair. Adds up to find our B. So really, the first 3 steps are the same, except for we have to multiply A times C first. And that's where we're borrowing. The C is going to borrow from the A. It's going to say, hey, can I borrow you for a second? It's going to come over to it. We're going to do some math with it. And then we have to pay it back. So when we pay it back, what's the opposite of multiplication? Well, it's division. So we're going to write our factors as binomials. But then we have to, and this is the most important part, we have to pay back that A that we've already done. And then, so you have to make sure that you remember to divide by A. And then the final thing we're going to do is simplify the terms and find solutions. So simplify terms. What does that mean? Well, if they come out evenly, you're going to leave them the same. So like if it's 6 divided by 3, obviously that simplifies to 2. If it is 8 divided by -4, then obviously that is going to be a -2. So if it comes out evenly, great. But let's say it's 12 divided by, say, oh wait, no, not 12. Let's do 15 divided by 6. This can be simplified. It can't come out to a whole number, but it can be simplified. This can be simplified to 5/3. So we're going to use our calculator to simplify our terms. We're going to use Desmos to simplify our fractions if we're not confident with that. And then if the answer is a fraction, I need you to make sure that the denominator goes out front. So you move the denominator to the front. So in this case, if we had 5/3, if we had x plus 5/3, the denominator of 3 has to slide out to the front. So this would become 3x plus 5. Let's see a couple of these in action. So let's practice the steps. So step 1 is to put it in standard form. So we move this to the other side. 3x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. We then multiply a times c. That's 3 times -2 is a -6. We find our factors. That's 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Because our b is negative, it's a -6, And because our b is also negative, we know that the larger number has to be negative and the smaller number has to be positive. We add them together and we find our magic pair is here. So we have x plus 2 and x minus 3. Now, we have borrowed from the A, so now we have to pay back the A. And when we pay back, we divide each term by A. So we're going to divide both of these by A. Now I know that 3 divided by 3 is 1, so my second term can be x minus 1. I can tell you with 100% certainty that 2/3 cannot be simplified anymore. 2/3 is simplified, but we don't leave it as a fraction. So remember, just like we went through in step number 5, we bring this out front. So this term becomes 3x plus 2. And then we would solve each of these to find the solutions. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's just factor them. We can always practice the solutions another day. Okay, so again, we move it to the left, put it in standard form first. So 2x squared plus 3x minus 9 equals 0. Now, we multiply A times C, and we get a negative 18. Now we list all of our factors for negative 18. So we're going, that's 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't go in, we've reached the 6. Okay. Because 18 is negative, that means one's going to be negative, one's going to be positive. But because our b is positive, then the larger number is positive and the smaller number is negative. Then we add straight across, that is 17, 7, and 3. So our magic pair is negative 3 and a positive 6. So we have x minus 3 and x plus 6. So we have borrowed from the A, given it to the C, factored. We found our magic pair. Now we have to pay back. So we are going to pay back the 2, the A. Put this into Desmos to determine if it can be factored. You can see that that will come out evenly. So because it is a fraction, we bring the 2 out front. So this becomes 2x minus 3. Now here, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it's x plus 3. Easy enough, right? Number one mistake students make, they forget to do the payback. So remember, as we're doing this, it's a borrow and a payback. Don't be a moocher friend and forget to pay somebody back. So put it in standard form first. We multiply our A times our C. 3 times 3 is 9. We find all of our factors. That's 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. Because our 9 is positive, both of them either have to be positive or both of them have to be negative. Because our 6 is negative, they're both going to be negative. Then we add our factors together. That's a negative 10 and a negative 6. So we have our magic pair is our negative 3. So we have x minus 3 and x minus 3. And the number one thing we need to do is to divide by our coefficient of a. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And it's not that we have two solutions, we have a single solution of x equals 1. Okay, so as a reminder, step 1 is put it in standard form by doing the opposites operation. Then we're going to multiply a times c. We're going to borrow the a to the c. We're going to determine the pair whose sum is b. We're going to write our factors as binomials and make sure that we divide by a. That is the number one mistake students make. And then you simplify the terms, and if the answer is a fraction, move the denominator out front. So finish the backside, and I will talk to you soon.